So I chose a presentation topic that is basically my story. And Mike Lacona shared a few moments ago that he's a perpetual second guesser. And I guess I'm not that radical. I don't really need to buy cologne and change my mind that much, but I just naturally smell good. But the topic, the title of my presentation is The Benefit of the Doubt. And I'm actually proposing today that doubting is actually a gift from God, which is actually, a lot of people don't see it that way. Sometimes it's not, sometimes I think it actually is. It has been in my life. In fact, I will go so far as to say that I actually thank God for doubt. I want you to imagine, okay, some nights I like to torture myself, so I stay up and I watch the televangelists, and I love hearing people that say, you just need to have more faith. If you had more faith, you would be healed, or you would be rich, wealthy, or if you just think positively and you have more faith, by sheer will, somehow you can create faith. I didn't realize that. You can do whatever you want and have the best quality of life. But I like watching TV preachers that tell people they need to have more faith, and it just makes me angry. I imagine there's this like a faithometer, and it's like you can control how high it goes just by sheer will. It's like the little engine that kept saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. I'm convinced that you cannot force yourself intellectually to believe something that you actually don't believe. For many of us, we need good reasons to believe something, to have faith in something. In other words, to put our trust in something. The word faith today in our world has negative connotations. The new atheists like to say that faith is just something that when there's no more evidence, the religious people just put blind faith into something. So faith is believing in something without any evidence. That's really a bad definition of faith because it comes from the Greek word pistis, which means to trust. So I think sometimes we should get rid of the word faith because I think it's lost its meaning in our world. I think we should start using the word trust. So at what point are you willing to put your trust in something? That requires some evidence. Imagine that you just got a brand new car, and then some random stranger says, hey, can I take the keys and take your car for a drive? Blind faith would be dumb. You just give the car, sure, take my car and go. No. You would be justified in requiring some good evidence that this person is reliable enough to drive your car in the first place. And I think our own lives, our worldviews, are a lot more important than the keys to a car. So as a Christian, I'm someone that needs to look for answers in order to be able to have increased faith in what I'm claiming to believe in. Now, I grant that many of you in this room right here have the gift of faith, and it is a gift that God gives to many of us. And some of us are wired in such a way that we find it easier to believe in others. Like my wife, Julie, she's an experiential person. That she knows God to be real in her life because she experiences the presence of God as a tangible presence. And the apologetical arguments are good, but she knows Jesus to be true because she's experienced Jesus. Whereas for me, I'm wired a little differently in that because I struggle with doubts, I am a perpetual doubter. I've always been that way. I need to ask hard questions and to look for answers. And it's actually revolutionized my faith. David Kinnaman, as an author, and he's interviewed thousands of young adults between the ages of 18 and 29 years old. He discovered that almost 1/4 of young adults who identified as Christians had significant intellectual doubts about faith. In fact, one of the leading causes of people losing their faith is that they no longer believe there are good reasons to be a Christian, to believe in Jesus, intellectually. I'm reminded of Hebrews 11, verse 1, and it says this. It says, now faith is the what of things hoped for and the what of things not seen. The NIV says that faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. I don't know if I think that's the best translation. The Greek words are hypostasis and elegkos, and the words are actually confidence and conviction. I actually think those are better words to use. So faith is the confidence of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. It's not about being sure or certain. Faith is only faith amidst the option of doubt. Imagine that I had $2 in my hand, and I should have had $2 in my hand, but I can't really hold the microphone in this hand. It's kind of gimped right now. And I said, anybody here believe they have $2 in my hand? And then, somebody comes up and says, sure, I believe. And then I open up my hand. At that point, you no longer believe by faith that I'm holding $2 in my hand. You believe by fact. So faith is only faith amidst the option of doubt. Otherwise, it just becomes fact. So in order to trust something, you need to be able to have good reasons for this. So it's not about being sure certain. It's about having confidence and conviction. I might be confident about something, but it's not a guarantee. It's like saying yes at the altar. When I got married, and I married Julie, that was one of the best decisions I ever made. But I was scared to death to go to the altar because I thought, I'm literally committing my life to one person. And I don't know for sure that's going to work out perfectly till the end. I had confidence and conviction. And I said yes at the altar. And I believe that being a Christian is very much like that. It's choosing to put our trust in God despite there being actual doubts and uncertainty. Faith and doubt are not opposites. Doubt can be a journey towards faith. The opposite, as I said, of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is apathy. Apathy means you do not care anymore. How many people in our generation are apathetic? That's the thing you should be scared of. When your young people or adults in the church become apathetic, they don't care anymore, they might come and hear the sermon, but they walk out and don't do anything. That's the biggest fear in the church, is apathy. It's what shuts people down. Doubt. When somebody is experiencing doubt, I actually get a little bit excited because I'm like, you're starting to take this really seriously. This is going to be really painful, but it's going to be really good for you. Welcome to the club. I'm part of this club too. And then I tell them about my own experience. When somebody tells me they're struggling with doubts, I know they're on a journey towards the truth. And that's a healthy thing. So if anybody in this room today is struggling with doubts, I want to encourage you that that's not necessarily the devil trying to derail you from following Jesus. It might be the tool that God uses to increase your faith because you will have taken the time to look into some of these questions that you have, to take them seriously, to wrestle with them, and then you will understand what you believe about those issues for the first time maybe ever. And I think this is healthy. So in my own life, I would actually say that God has allowed me to have doubts, and it's been one of the greatest things that He's ever done for me because I've been forced to look into the evidence for my faith, and it's increased my faith. Let me tell you quickly about Agnes. Agnes, when she was a teenager, she felt a call from God to serve the sick and the poor and to be an evangelist. She was deeply in love with God, and she felt His presence constantly. She asked her church for permission to start a mission whose purpose was to take care of the sick, the dying, and the poor. And Agnes put everything into serving Jesus, and many young women just like her joined this work. Over the course of her life, Agnes helped thousands of people to die with dignity and purpose. She fed the poor, and she shared the message of Jesus' love through her actions. However, Agnes carried a heavy burden during her life. Around the time she started the mission, she began to feel that God had withdrawn His presence from her. And this woman of God, who served Him with everything she had, she felt what the 16th century mystic St. John of the Cross called the dark night of the soul for 50 years. Except for a brief 2-week break in the fog during which she felt God's presence, she went 50 years without sensing the presence of God. Of course, this woman is known by other name, Mother Teresa. A collection of her letters of correspondence to her confessors was published in a book a few years ago titled, Come Be My Light. At the suggestion of one of her confessors, she wrote a letter to Jesus. And listen to this excerpt from that letter, and I can resonate with this. Lord, my God, who am I that you should forsake me, the child of your love, and now become as the most hated one, the one you have thrown away as unwanted, unloved? I call, I cling, I want, and there is no one to answer, no one who I can cling, no one. Alone. Where is my faith? So many unanswered questions live within me, afraid to uncover them because of the blasphemy. If there be God, please forgive me. When I try to raise my thoughts to heaven, there is such convicting emptiness that those very thoughts return like sharp knives and hurt my very soul. I'm told that God loves me, and yet the reality of darkness and coldness and emptiness is so great that nothing touches my soul. Did I make a mistake in surrendering blindly to the call of the Sacred Heart? Mother Teresa. faith and doubt. Faith and doubt. The two oftentimes go hand in hand. Faith and doubt are not completely incompatible. In fact, as I said, doubt can become a tool that God uses to strengthen our relationship with Him. Now, there are many different reasons why people experience doubt in their spiritual lives. A death of a loved one, unjust suffering, poor answers to hard questions, the feeling of abandonment by God. These are just some of the ways that people experience doubts. But God can use our doubts to bring us closer to Him. My own story, this is what happened. Instead of letting my doubts continue to defeat me, I got to work and started to ask the questions. And my faith has been rejuvenated because I've seen God's fingerprints all over history. As I hear presentations from Michael Kona and Dan Wallace and Anna Robbins and Rhonda Britton and Nathan Betts and the other ones we're going to hear today, I see God's fingerprints all over the past. And because of the way I'm wired, the way God created me to have doubts, to be one of those people, I've actually been able to come alongside other people who experience doubts too, and to comfort them and to say, you know what, I've gone through this as well, and sometimes it happens to me, like all the time. But it's given me a heart of compassion for those that ask the hard questions, because I don't judge them. They're not a defect any more than I am a defect. By the way, we're all defects. I'm convinced that not all skepticism is of the devil to try to knock us out of the Christian family. I believe that a certain measure of skepticism is from God to protect us from danger. God has given us spidey senses so that we take care not to be duped into heresy or false truths or danger. However, this also means that sometimes, because we're fallen creatures, we will doubt the truth as well as a lie. And that's because of our fallen nature. So sometimes it's a hard journey. It's a tough slog, but something we need to plow through. This might mean that other than a supernatural blast from God, sometimes we will need to roll up our sleeves and begin a journey looking for answers. And that's what I've done. It's changed my life. This causes a few things to happen. One of them is that we develop deeper conviction because during the journey, our minds have grown to understand the truth. This can be a painful process, but it's definitely worth it. Don't bury your head in the sand. It is not worth it. Ask the hard questions, get on the journey, and plow forward. In Mark 9, I want to go over this one Bible passage and then wrap up. In Mark 9, Jesus, Peter, James, and John have come down from the Mount of Transfiguration. They get to the bottom and they meet up with Jesus' other disciples. There's a crowd gathered. Some scribes were there arguing with some of the people in the crowd. And as soon as the crowd saw Jesus, they ran toward him in amazement, just as I would. Jesus asks them why they are arguing with the scribes. One man from the crowd steps forward to answer. Listen to what he says. Teacher, I brought you my son. He is a spirit that makes him unable to speak, and whenever it seizes him, it dashes him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth, becomes rigid. And I asked your disciples to cast it out, but they couldn't do so. Jesus then says to the crowd, you faithless generation, how much longer must I be among you? How much longer must I put up with you? Bring him to me. They bring the boy to Jesus, and as soon as the spirit saw Jesus, we're told that it sent the boy into convulsions, and the boy's rolling on the ground and foaming at the mouth. Pretty vivid depiction. Jesus asks the boy's father, how long has this been happening to him? The boy's father said, from childhood. It has often cast him into the fire and into the water to destroy him, but if you are able to do anything, have pity on us and help us. Do you realize what this father has said to Jesus? His son has been like this since he was a little boy. He has had this unclean spirit inside of him for years. I'm sure the family's done everything it could to help this boy. The father has requested Jesus, if you are able to do anything, have pity on us and help us. If you're able to do anything? This sounds like a father completely at the end of his rope. He is desperate. He loves his son. He feels the pain inside of seeing his son in the current state that he is in. He's done everything possible to no avail. And then Jesus comes to town. Jesus responds by saying, if you are able, all things can be done for the one who believes. Sounds like Jesus is a TV preacher here all of a sudden. You just need to have faith, like the faithometer. And if you just believe, it'll increase. No, that's not what Jesus is saying. Jesus says, all things can be done for the one who believes. Jesus is saying here that in order for any healing to occur, the receptor must have a desire to have faith. that the healing can happen. The boy's father at the end of his rope responds to the following line, which I am so happy is in the Bible. It says, immediately the father of the child cried out, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. And then Jesus rebukes him for not having enough faith. No, that's not what happened. Jesus looked at the man, and then he heals his son. He says, basically, that's enough. That's all I need. Just a mustard seed. You want to believe? That's enough. I'll work with that. You don't have to increase the faithometer to 60% or 70% or 80%. You have enough. Let's make something happen. This is who we're dealing with when we're dealing with God. We're dealing with a God that He doesn't work with the faithometer. Some of us have a higher degree of faith than others, and God will work with us wherever we are, no matter how much faith we have at a given time. And He will work with us. I'm sure that boy's father's faith jumped up a few notches in the faithometer after that miracle. But as I said, I want to leave you here this morning with this encouragement that having doubts is not the opposite of faith. It could be a journey towards increased faith, a more vivid and alive faith, as it has in my life, and as it had in the life of this father, of this son. Give God whatever faith you have, and then He will help you to increase it over time. This might not happen overnight. But I thank God that He does not expect me to have my faith reach the top of the faithometer before He gives me His grace and His love. He will work with us with a little bit that we can give to Him. Thanks.